I'm going to begin with the presumption that everyone here, in your heart of hearts, wants to be a good person, wants to do good things. That's good. But in the scriptures here, the Lord calls us to something greater than goodness. He calls us to be holy. Or as he puts it, be holy as I, the Lord your God, am holy. So not only to be holy, but to be holy like God is holy. But I wonder, though most of us have a desire to be good, how many of us wake up in the morning hoping to be holy that day? Holiness tends to be something, I think, that we admire in other people. Jesus, Mother Teresa, your grandmother who prays all day. Those are holy people. But I'm not sure that holiness is something that you and I feature or want to work towards having in our own lives. And insofar as we think of being holy as being pious or spiritually over the top or even odd or quirky, to that extent, holiness might actually be something we're trying to avoid being. But Jesus calls us to be holy. In these readings, holiness is not something sanctimonious or prudish. It's not holier than thou. It's certainly not something weak or submissive. Actually, holiness in these texts is challenging and demanding and exacting and strong. The holiness to which tonight's scriptures calls us refuses to leave any room in our lives for hatred, for animosity, for ill will. Now, most of us don't have hate-filled hearts. But many of us, I might even say most of us, myself, in our otherwise good hearts, we keep just a little corner for cultivating less than loving thoughts and feelings. It's kind of like the junk drawer in your kitchen. You know, we just toss it in. The whole kitchen looks spotless. But there's this one drawer that's a mess. Sometimes we keep a little corner of our hearts for cultivating those bad feelings about this one or that one, that group, or the one over there, that political party, that church authority, that person in my past, my ex, that one coworker who really pushes my buttons, and that woman down the street. Of course, even a good heart doesn't want to make room for such feelings. No more than a farmer would keep a corner of his field for growing weeds. Weeds drain the goodness out of the soil, and eventually they spread, choking and laying waste the field and its crop. A good heart, certainly a holy heart, makes no room for the weeds, but rather keeps a faithful vigil, lest ill will or grudges or selfishness or resentments take root and begin to yield a sour harvest of bitterness. The holy heart seeks always what is loving, what's honest, what's true, what's fair, what's pure, what's whole, what's just. A holy heart spends no time ruminating on hurt feelings or revenge or retaliation. No time trying to justify, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. No. The holy heart has no room for that. Not as a legitimate course of action or an attitude for a Christian. A holy heart never seeks to oppose evil with evil, no matter how satisfying that may appear or feel or be. And God knows it can feel satisfying. But rather, a Christian heart stands tall in the face of evil, willing to bear and suffer the consequences of being faithful, even and especially when those consequences take their toll on my ease and my comfort. While a good heart willingly gives to someone in need, a holy heart gives until the giver actually begins to feel the want experienced by the one whose needs are being serviced. A holy heart gives until the giver feels the pinch of the sacrifice of surrendering what's mine to someone else. In other words, and this is tough, in other words, for Christians, being good isn't good enough. Being good isn't good enough. People of good heart love those who love them. Holy people have a greater, deeper, stronger love to offer. They love those who do not, who cannot love them in return. They love even their enemies, and they pray for those who make their lives unhappy. In the gospel here today, Jesus acknowledges that even pagans have good hearts, but he calls us to something greater, deeper, stronger, and more demanding. Jesus calls us to love as God loves, not sparingly, not grudgingly, not now and then, but fully, deeply, and robustly. Love not with strings attached, but selflessly and generously. Love not with the hope of getting something in return for me, but freely, sacrificially. Love not with hidden pockets of scorn and resentment, but with real mercy and genuine forgiveness. I can't think of many scriptures better than today's to prepare us for the season of Lent, which begins on Wednesday. The word Lent comes from an old Middle English word, lente, which means springtime. Lent is a season of spring, a springtime of spring training for Christians, a time for getting our Christian lives in shape so that we're fit and prepared to celebrate Easter with holy hearts. Lent is a journey we walk from Ash Wednesday to Holy Week. You might have noticed coming in the church doors today that the bulletin board at the front door invites us to begin a journey to Easter, 40-day journey to Easter, and invites us to think about what we need to pack for that journey and what we need to leave behind. What we need to pack for the journey to Easter, and what are the things that have no place in my backpack? I'll leave those behind. Give them up, as we say, for Lent. Jesus gives us good advice today about how to pack for this Lenten journey. His counsel was clear and unambiguous. Love one another as I have loved you. Those 8 words sum up the entire gospel message. And that message is perfectly imaged in the cross that is over our prayer on our altar. For this is how Christ loved us. He nursed no grudge against us whose sins he carried on his back. He loved his neighbor and even his enemies more than himself, more than his own life. He offered not a word or a lick of violence in return to the violence done to him in his last hours. Indeed, on the cross, he prayed precisely for those who persecuted him. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Jesus shares with us now at this altar the love he offered for us on the cross. He feeds us here at his table in the Eucharist with the same body and blood he offered for us in his suffering and death. More than a good heart gave itself over for us in the sacrifice of the cross. Indeed, on the cross, the holiest of all hearts gave himself for us. May the sacrament we share at this table this afternoon nourish in each of us a desire to be not just good, but a desire to be holy, a desire to love with the holiness with which we are loved.